Alessandra Torresani. Now,
Yes, you said it perfect.
this is clearly Italian.
Yes.
Okay, now are you very Italian? What is very Italian to your Italian? Is what's the family dynamic like?
I am not from Italy, and my dad is not from Italy, but my grandparents are from Italy. So we're Italian, but we're actually Northern Italian. So that's why I'm so light skinned and so nice and pale, if you will. I'm not gorgeous Sicilian. So I have the attitude of an Italian lady, but not really the face, but it's there.
Yes.
But I got the name, so that's about as good as it's gonna get.
The name, it's a beautiful name. That name
Yeah.
flows. That is very flowing.
And my middle name is Olivia, so it's very Italian.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Mine's just like cut to the chase kind of name, like Scott, and then that's it.
You're kind of like just Canadian.
It's so Canadian and
It's
so
so
white.
Canadian.
Yes, and my brothers' names are Paul and Mark and
Okay.
Craig. So
So Canadian.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love Canada.
Do I sound Canadian to you? How do I
Oh yeah.
sound?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like in
Definitely.
a bad way or
No, but do you say big?
big
Yeah, you say big. And you also say, oh my
about?
God, about. I shot a TV show in Vancouver. So I lived there for 2 years. So I was very familiar with I can hear a Canadian accent where other people like cannot at all.
Oh, interesting. I
Yeah.
had someone come from actually a patron of mine come from Long Island this
Oh,
past weekend, and she had the accent at coffee.
yeah. Cool.
But she knew my Canadian accent very well, and it
Yeah.
made her laugh multiple times. And I'm like, okay, whatever, coffee.
But if you don't know a Canadian accent, I feel like you would never hear it. But if you're around, like, I mean, I was surrounded by it for so long that I could pick up, certain little things. It's a little sing-songy in some words.
Yes, and interesting. Like Canada's massive, so
Yeah.
Eastern Canada, the Newfie accent is way different from
Oh
West
yeah.
Coast or Central. So it's really interesting how you get that mix.
Yeah.
So before this, I was doing some homework on you.
Oh.
And I didn't, I swear, until today, like 15 minutes ago. And I was scrolling down the IMDb,
Mhm.
and I saw that you were the Anne in Arrested Development.
Oh, I was the first Anne.
That's right. You were the
Yeah.
first Anne.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is, and I was like, oh yeah, like, oh, it was so cool. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners, and obviously, well, with playing Anne, you're obviously in the acting world. What's that like? What's your story? What's going on?
Well, I started acting when I was 9. I've been doing it for a really long time. I'm 32 now, so quite some time. And I've done everything from TV to film. I was a dancer when I was younger, a professional dancer, so I'm very comfortable on the stage. But yes, I was the first Anne on Arrested Development. And when I shot that, it's so funny. I get that so many times that people recognize me from that. And I don't even think, I gotta be honest, I don't even think I've seen it, but
You
I,
are in much bigger things. I just
right,
like, but
right,
that's the one
right.
thing I
But
definitely did.
no, the banana stand. But when we shot that, Arrested Development had not come out yet, so I didn't know what I was even doing. I just thought I was like doing a regular. I think it was Fox or something. Maybe I think I was doing like a regular Fox show. Um, so I had no idea it would be such a hit. And now I actually watch it on Netflix. But because it's not like me, I don't associate it because I don't. I've like kind of hopped around, but the later episodes.
Right,
Um,
right. So that's
yeah,
that's an early start to the acting career. At
yeah.
9, was that something that you did consistently, or did you go to school? Did you have breaks?
Right. I did go to school at the same time. And so I would go back and forth and would have to leave, class for an audition or have to go shoot a TV show. But I actually left my grade 10 for Canadians, grade 10. And halfway in the year, because I got a TV show that shot in Australia for 4 months, and my school wouldn't allow me to go. So I took my high school proficiency exam and I started doing college classes online. So I finished 2 years of college by the time I was 17, or 16 and a half, kind of, and got into colleges that I had always wanted to, but always said, okay, well, I'm going to go back when I'm not working. I'm going to go back when I'm not working. And then I consistently kept working. So I kept pushing it off. So yes, I had somewhat of a normal life because I went to school with non-actors. And my best friend is a non-actor, but it's definitely my whole world was acting.
Well, how did you balance those two things, and how were you really you kept being pulled towards acting? How did this passion evolve? Like it's a really um I kind of want to say popular dream, but it's
Yeah,
so difficult
right.
to be successful, however you want to define that too. How did you keep going when maybe you weren't getting casted or you didn't have that many auditions at certain times?
Right,
That's
right.
really difficult.
It was a lot of struggle. I definitely have been rejected probably than most people I've met who are not in the business their entire life put together. Um, but I think that you have to have a really thick skin and you can't take it seriously and you can't take it personally, that's for sure. Because if you're even a little bit sensitive, which I'm very sensitive, but I had to learn that you just kind of have to cut that part out of your life, because it's not like someone rejecting you in your personal life for who you are. They're rejecting you because you don't fit in the mold of a show or a character or whatever that may be.
Right.
Um, but that takes a long time to learn that. And I think because I was young, I was kind of oblivious and unaware of the like absurdity of being an actress and like being rejected at 9 years old, like because you don't know what you're doing, so just everything's it just felt so fun to me going into an audition and meeting people, and I loved talking. As long as I could talk to somebody, I was happy. So for me it was exciting every single time that I did it.
Oh, that's very interesting and so important for people.
Yeah.
What happens sometimes is if you follow your passion, but then you make it work, you
Mhm.
kind of lose that love and energy for something because you've
Totally.
attached money to it, and maybe you're only thinking about money and deem that as a metric for success. How did you define your career, and even now, how do you define success in your own life in specifically in acting?
um that is a mouthful, Scott. I think that there's always the part of me that's a perfectionist that doesn't think that I've had any successes. In honestly, that goes through my head all the time, where I compare where I am at 32 years old to friends or coworkers or people that I admired when I was younger and I looked up to. But what I've slowly had to keep teaching myself over and over is it's never going to be the same as someone else, because your journey is completely different and your life is different and your path is different. And like, yes, I may not have an Academy Award, but I'm also, not that person yet. And for me, my path right now, as well as being an actress, is trying to communicate with my platform on mental health. And like, so that's where my focus is. I don't think that anyone is really ever happy with their career, even if they're the biggest person in the entire world, because you can always find some fault and some problem in, I shouldn't have done this movie because maybe if I didn't do this movie, I would have missed out on this one, vice versa, whatever it may be. So I don't think there's any way to fully be okay with what you've done. Um, and that's something that took me a long, long, long time to realize, to kind of, and I still struggle with it, of taking that moment, stepping back and realizing you cannot compare yourself to other people, because that's just like a recipe for disaster.
I really like that. I really, and I struggle with that too. I think that's really common, especially, well, maybe not especially, but in acting, when
Mhm.
maybe you have actor friends and they're
Yeah.
booking this and he or she booked this and you have the whole series booked and you're like, or maybe not you specifically, but maybe another person says, I haven't gotten a call in 2 weeks, right? So what's really amazing, I think, in what you've been doing in actors is developing resilience and looking and dealing with failure,
Mhm.
maybe even that rejection. Anyone in sales, anyone in acting, you develop that shell.
Yeah.
With being, let's just say, rejected, right? Because yeah, you don't fit that mold.
Mhm.
Have I'd love to jump into to mental health. Was that really difficult, being said no to so often? What's your mental health journey been through all of this?
Well,
And you can feel free to rewind too if it starts earlier.
no, 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 no. I mean, it obviously started way earlier than that, but I think that the main issue that I have in regards to like my personal mental health and being an actor is I how do I say this? I've always struggled with mental health. So the business that I chose to be in was obviously not the smartest thing, maybe for someone who had mental health issues to get into, but it kind of made me, as cheesy as it sounds, stronger because it gave me that thick skin. Um, to protect me not only from other people in the business, like from working in the rejection, but from outsiders all around me. And I think maybe that's why I'm at a place in my life. Scott, you're helping me realize this. Maybe that's why I'm at a place in my life where I don't really care to share about. I don't care about not sharing my journey. Like before, I was told to hide being bipolar. For those who don't know, I'm bipolar 1. So I was always told, don't talk about it. Like it's not a good look to discuss it because you could be labeled as a diva on set or difficult to work with, and none of that was true because that's not who I was very professional even from a young age, but it was that stigma. And I think that because I went through so much rejection in my work life with my personal life, now being able to share my truth, if someone's going to be rude to me, like that really does hurt still, but it's not the first time I've been rejected. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right.
Again, we can call it the thick skin, but the first time something happens, especially with children, you could label like new experiences almost traumatic. When you're
Right.
learning something new experience, you fall for the first time, right? Experience a new location. My brother just had a baby 3 months ago. She's 3 months old. Every new house she goes to, she gets uncomfortable. She's crying, right? It's just, hey,
Oh,
new environment, new things you're seeing, new smells, new
yeah.
people. So all of that's so new.
It's like
So
sensory overload.
it
I'm
really
so
is.
sorry that is making noise and I just got a new computer. So deal with me if those noises. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to stop them.
High pitched dings. Oh,
Do
now
you
I'm
know how
echoing.
to stop those? I'm so sorry.
Wait, test, test, test. No, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
I'm sorry.
so when we're talking about, new experiences and having that, there's always that fear and hesitation to experience new things and change. What was the motivation, and was there fear behind you finally saying, "Hey, I'm gonna share my story"? That's like,
Uh,
woof.
like when did it start?
When
What
did it start, or what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, there was a couple reasons behind it. One of the reasons was I just had been so frustrated about not being able to speak my truth. And my close friends and family knew, and I didn't think it was a big deal. And I thought the more that I hide this, the more it does feel like it's labeling me, and it's a big deal when it's not. It's just something that I was born with, and a lot of people are born with certain things and it's okay, like you can't change it, it is what it is. But I think that I finally just had gotten frustrated and I was just done with all of the hiding. I think that it became another thing was it became kind of a hot topic to talk about, like a keyword mental health in the social media world. And I knew a lot of people that I was not friends with, but that I knew whatever, and people who I didn't know, who I had just seen, people would send me stuff. They were using mental health in a way that it was negative in the sense where they were using it to gain followers, or they
Mm-hmm.
were doing it because it's something that was just talked about, and they're like, oh, this is a way to make me sound like I know more than I know. And so for me, I would see this and I'd be so frustrated that these people had such a voice and were speaking to people and sharing these fake stories when I knew what I had gone through, and that I didn't have a lot of people to speak to. And I didn't know a lot of celebrities that had it. And the only one that I knew that was open about it was Carrie Fisher. And she was always my idol.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? I'm not saying that I'm like the most like famous person in the world and that everyone should listen to me and I'm like the best and blah, blah, blah. But if I can help one person the way that Carrie Fisher did, and not have it be looked down upon or told a false story, if I could speak my truth of what I really am and what I experienced, I hope and I wish and I feel the truth is that that is going to resonate to people, and they're going to actually feel the sincerity behind it all. And as soon as I started talking about my truth, more people came out of the woodworks of sharing their personal stories and their journeys, and saying that they had never known celebrities to have bipolar 1, and that the only one they had ever heard of was these 3 people that talk about it all the time, and how nice it is to know that, you know, you're not alone. Especially in this day and age, I think we live in a world behind a computer and behind, you know, Instagram and Facebook. And while I think it's the most amazing thing, technology, because it gives us a platform to speak to people from the other side of the world that we never would have been able to, I think that there are a lot of people that take advantage of it.
Ooh,
That was,
so,
like that was a lot, I feel like, that I just threw at you, Scott.
that's not, no, no, no. This podcast is for you. You do all the talking. So yeah, you are doing the right thing. What do you find a problem? What do you disagree with when it comes to the mental health keyword? You said that it's very popular today. It's a trending word. Do you find that there's, you know, how do we know that stories are false? How can we judge someone's level of suffering compared to someone else? Do you find that what kind of negatives do you see with people sharing these things?
I think that any conversation is a good conversation. I'll start with that. What I think is wrong is if people have false information that they're giving out, just because they heard through the grapevine that this is what helps someone with, you know, with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, and it's like they don't know what they're talking about at all.
Yeah.
Or if people, I mean, I don't want to call people out, but if someone's, you know, on there not sharing a personal story about depression, and then they're speaking about it and going, oh, I'm so depressed today, like I'm exhausted and depressed, and you're just like, but what is the feeling inside? Like, give someone the definition of your depression, because if you can speak what you do and what you're doing to help your depression, that can help other people like learn and go through the journey with you. You know,
Mm.
but when you're just saying or posting a bikini photo and you go hashtag mental health awareness week, you're like, come on, you
I
know, and
know.
there's no judgment to what, I cannot say what people are going through. I'm never going to say that. But I am going to say you can smell a rat, you know, from far away, and you can see when people are doing it just to get the attention of a following on social media.
Yeah. And you know what? We all judge, and I don't think judging, judging is basically coming to a conclusion without all the information that can be
Right.
like that's available. But I don't know, man. Sometimes that's enough information to see a bikini pic, a little story, and then all these mental health hashtags.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's enough. You know what? I'm not going to lie and say, and as I suggested, that, I'm not going to judge these people. They may be struggling more than we know, but sometimes, you know what? You can smell something fishy down the
Something
street.
fishy.
Something's a little
Yeah.
fishy going on. You're right. But I like the point that you made, that most conversation started is a good conversation when it comes to mental health. There is a lot of misinformation. And so let's say with bipolar, if someone's doing a post and they're like, hey, yeah, new study shows that grapes, you eat 28 grapes a day, you're cured. So everyone start eating those grapes. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. So there are a few misleading posts and misinformation. And that's what happens when everyone has a voice on social media, and the people with the loudest voice a lot of the time win.
Mm.
It's like, who was that actress who wrote that book about the vagina steaming? Have you heard of that?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
There you go. And that people got sick from that, and she had the loudest voice on how to cleanse your self-cleaning
Yeah,
vagina, right?
yeah.
So that's just one example, and then you can flip that to
God,
mental
did you
health
read
as
that
physical.
book? Did
I
you read
didn't.
that
I
book?
didn't read. I'll have you.
No, I did not.
Have you ever met Gwyneth Paltrow?
I have not met Gwyneth Paltrow. I hope
Okay.
to. I love her, but no, I did not read her steaming vagina book.
Okay. The steam, it's a whole other level. That's a whole other level. So what do you find? Because I think what you mentioned too is that conversation is good. There's misinformation, but a lot of people would just be like, I'm depressed today, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they're not actually depressed. We don't know. But there's not a lot of tangible uh, things that people are offering that we can do to support ourselves, right? It's a lot of awareness, not a lot of take action and do things. What are some things that you've done? Because bipolar is very complicated. What are some things that you do to stay on top of your overall mental health and well being?
Well, I'm on medication, and I'm a
Okay.
firm believer on being properly medicated if need be. There's no shame in that. I am really into transcendental meditation, and that's helped me a lot. Um, and so that's one thing. I used to be a dancer. So if I'm ever feeling in my head and I'm like wanting to just like throw up all these emotions, the best way for me to express myself is just go to a dance studio, not tell anyone, not just focus in my mind and just like let it all out. That's really good. And I'm a
Yes.
firm believer also in an infrared sauna. I know that's so weird. But sometimes just being in a solidarity in your brain and like having your body like flush all the sweat out of your system, that actually helps a lot too. It helps with my migraines at least.
What's an
Um,
inverted sauna?
an
Oh, you're
infrared
upside down. You're
sauna.
hanging upside down.
No, no, no.
Oh,
It's like
infrared.
infrared.
I thought you said
Infrared.
I thought you said inverted.
Oh my God, fun. I don't know what that is. No, but that could be a new thing. Who knows?
Okay, infrared sauna. Yes, absolutely. Even that, do you like visualize almost while you're in there, just the flushing of
Yeah, it's just
toxins?
like not being, it's about being in your head, but not being in your head at the same time. Because I think that there's nothing better than being in quiet stillness in a small area, which sounds super crazy and claustrophobic because I'm claustrophobic, but for some reason, like it's almost like being in the womb again and you feel safe. Bring in a book, like listen to a podcast, listen to your podcast, listen to my podcast, like whatever. But I think that it's very important to take care of your physical body as well as your mental to have an effect on your mental health. I think that you have to, get up and walk around and move and just kind of that's the only way to get out of your head.
I love that. Now, let's rewind if we can. How did you know that something maybe wasn't working quite right in your life or mentally? When did you seek help? When were you diagnosed with bipolar 1?
I was diagnosed when I was 22 years old.
Okay.
Um, 22. I keep saying it over and over again, but I always forget like what it is. No, I was diagnosed when I was 22 years old, but I had certain events that had happened from the age of 5, 9, 11, 15, 20, like all these different sequence of events happened. Um, where they were signs of being bipolar when I was a kid. Like I would bang my head against the wall for no reason. I couldn't cross the threshold. I was suicidal. Like these were all things that were signs of me being either on the wrong medication, which I was. I was on antidepressants, which is the worst thing to do if you're bipolar. Um, and that made my highs and my lows lower.
Mm.
So it took me till I was 22, and an acupuncturist was the one that asked if I was bipolar, if anyone ever told me that. Um, and then I went to the psychiatrist, a new one. I was like, what do you think? She's like, yeah, absolutely. No one ever told you this. And what's really kind of funny about it is I was talking to David Haggerty, which we discussed. We met at the Kindred event, and he is a neuroscientist, and he is bipolar 2 and bipolar number 2,
Hmm.
but 2. And
Yeah.
he told me that bipolar disorder is the last thing to be on a checklist, like from a doctor, checked off. And so, yeah, it takes people an average of 3 years to be properly diagnosed bipolar. They go through everything else first.
No
Um,
kidding.
yeah, so it's a very tricky mental illness because it's very hard to pinpoint.
Well, right. That does make it tricky, and needing to be very patient. A lot of people, even with depression or anxiety disorders, it's trial and error sometimes with medications and finding the right doctor and finding
Yeah,
the right therapist that you connect with. It's
yeah,
so when people say, I always take this with a different approach. When people say physical health is mental health, or just important as mental health, or I say yes and no, because we treat physical illness in a very linear way. Broken leg, we know exactly what to do.
right.
Mental health, like treatment, is so different and so
No one
complex.
knows anything. That's the scariest is David goes, we don't really know a lot about the brain. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, you're a scientist. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, oh my God.
right? Oh, I'm so glad he admits that, which is a beautiful thing to admit, actually, for a scientist,
Yeah,
because they're like, oh, I get to go to work tomorrow, like,
yeah,
and figure some stuff out.
totally.
When we met for everyone listening, we met at a conference called Kindred, where it was a bunch of influencers, and it was specifically about mental health. It was called Mind Matters.
Mhm.
And that's where Alessandra and I met, along with some other great human beings. What was that conference like for you? Because I saw on Instagram, and everyone, Alessandra's links are all in the bio. I saw on Instagram, IGTV or Instagram post that you did, saying that was like one of the first times that you opened up with your story,
Yeah.
and like meeting all these people, and you were very open about it. When I met you for the first time, we kicked it off right away and started talking mental health. And you said that conference meant a lot to you. Why did that mean so much, meeting these people and being open like that?
Well, I had just started talking on my IGTV about mental health and my struggle with it's not even a struggle, but me living with bipolar disorder. And yeah, so anyways, I'm like, I don't know why I didn't say it's a struggle. It is a struggle, but it's something that I'm born with. And if you're born with something, I feel like, yes, it's hard, but you just got to accept it and make light of it. That's what I want to push forward. But yeah, I was so nervous. I got a phone call from someone that I went to high school with, Justin Markel. Shout out to Justin, at Kindred. And he had messaged me and said, I know that you've been talking about your mental health. Like, there's this event that I'm throwing. It's a conference for the Kindred Foundation. Foundation? I could be wrong. Kindred organization, something.
Sure.
Kindred. Sure. And we're asking 50 content creator influencers who are big in the mental health world from all over the world to come together and discuss. And I was so confused, like, why would I be asked? I thought I just started talking about this, and my boyfriend was kind of like, if this isn't a sign from the universe saying to you, see the little positivity, like see the little bit that you put out and you open up about yourself and you're already getting positive reinforcement that people want you to continue sharing your story. So I was very nervous when I went there. I did I did a FaceTime call with my mom as I was walking up to the conference for that first cocktail party. And I was like crying and I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this. I'm so nervous. I don't know these people. I have no reason to be here. I'm going to like be sick. And you were one of the first people I met, you and Matthew. It was so
Yes,
exciting.
that's
Yes.
right.
And, um, and I had never felt, such a sense of community and trust in a group of people that fast in my entire life. I don't think I ever will either. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I had never been in a room with such a big group of people who all shared very similar experiences from me and were willing and open to talk about it and didn't judge me, didn't make me feel strange about it. I didn't even have to say a lot of things to the people who were bipolar because we had the same experiences. And that was the first time that I was literally sharing my story. Like it was me going, to the supermarket to get eggs.
You did seem so comfortable with it. Like, I don't know if that's yeah, that's got to be a compliment. Like, it's like
Yeah,
you had done it before. It was like, I think it was because it was such a comfortable environment,
right.
and
Totally.
you
That's
seemed
exactly
right
what it
at
was.
home.
Well, and I usually wouldn't be that like outgoing in my story, but I think that I knew what I was getting into. And the second I met just a few of you and I realized, oh, everyone has something. And that is why we are all here. And every one of us wants to share that. So there is not one person that's going to be judgmental or make me feel stupid.
Oh,
So it
that's
was like,
great.
safe. Yeah.
It's a very open and comforting space.
It felt like
Um,
a family. It was
yeah.
so, it was a weird feeling because I didn't know any of you guys.
No, you're right. It was a weird feeling, especially, how I knew that it meant a lot, and we really made some headway there. Is at the end, I was sad. I wasn't
Oh my
depressed
God.
at the end. I was
Scott,
sad.
Scott, am I going to blow your mind right now? I'm
Blow
a,
my mind.
okay. So that week, the week after Kindred, or that weekend, because we finished on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, that weekend, I tried to break up with my boyfriend of 4 years for no reason. For no reason. I was angry with my family. I wasn't talking to my friends. I was like miserable inside and I had no idea why. And then I had gotten on the phone with Lars, one of the other girls that I met at the conference a week later. And she said, oh, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to that person? Have you talked to this person? And I said, no, why? And she goes, oh, we've just all had really rough times. And I go, what do you mean? I've never been more depressed in years. Like I've never felt this way before. I've never been angry. I've never broken up with my boyfriend for no reason. Like, what's wrong? And she goes, every single one of us had to either take a break from work, had to go away for the weekend and like go like on a spiritual journey for the weekend. And when I talked to David about it, David's like, I could have told you all that that would have happened. And I said, why? And he said, because all of our serotonin was going really high because we were finally surrounded by people that understood us. And we had never been around that kind of energy before, all in one place for, 3 days straight, all the time, nonstop. And then when you take someone away from that, their serotonin crashes and then they feel like the utmost depression and like no one understands them in the world.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And without even scanning a brain, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. I'm glad that you brought that up. I didn't know anyone was going through
No,
that.
every single one of us, every time I talk to people, they're like, oh, no, no, no. Like, we had never felt so awful before. And like, no one understood us and we just hated. And it's weird because Lars and I were talking. It's like you can kind of see what it would be like to be in a cult in a sense where if you met
Yes.
people that all were like you, that were on the same wavelength and energy as you want to be with them all the time. And like that's how we felt. Like I didn't want to leave Kindred. I
Yeah.
wanted it to keep going because I felt like I found, even though I love my friends and family, it kind of felt like I found my alien tribe from a different dimension, and like I was home again. It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah, and home. So this proves a beautiful point. This book I'm reading called Lost Connection. I'd recommend it to everyone in the
Good.
world. It's called Lost Connection by Johann Hari, and it's about basically connection is one form of antidepressant. So you feel like we felt it there. Like when you find community, when you find people that understand you, that get you, and build solid relationships, that is automatically a serotonin booster when you're in that space and you know he has my back, he or she loves me, I love them, they need me, right? I need them. That reciprocal relationship. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And
Feels great.
it does, and we definitely experienced that at the conference. Now, what's really cool is that since it was a while ago, you've done something on your own since that conference in the mental health realm. Tell us about emotional support.
Wait, first, have you told the story of you being part of a baptism? Because I don't know if you listened to my episode with Bryant Wood, but he gives you a shout out
Oh,
and talks
really?
about how you performed a baptism on our all mutual friend now, Frank.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Shout out to both Frank and Bryant Wood. Oh my gosh. They both have to come on the podcast. We should do a four-way
Oh, I would love
conversation.
that.
We
Yeah.
should.
Um,
I
you
will
can
fly
save
to
that
LA.
story, but that you could save that story for another time. But just so everyone knows in your audience that you never knew that Scott could perform baptisms.
And
So,
neither did Scott.
and
Neither
neither
did.
did Scott. Neither did Scott. But yes, so when I left Kindred, I had always had an idea before I went to Kindred, I had always had an idea of doing a television show that would be some sort of a talk show, and it would start off on YouTube or something like that. I never knew how I was going to do it because I never understood the YouTube world, and it felt so overwhelming and complicated.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
dumb.
always wanted, there you go. And I wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't know how to find a producer or do any of these things. But I had this whole brand and idea of what I wanted my show to be. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go into Kindred. I'm going to tap the idea to people and like see what they think of this podcast idea. I talked about it and see where it goes from there. And when I left there, well, actually, one of the guys had talked to David and I, Iran,
Yes. Yeah, that's
Iran.
right.
Yes.
Oh, what a cool guy.
What a cool guy. He had made a comment when we were at dinner and he was like, you and David are really funny. You guys should do a podcast. I'm like, well, yeah, I want to do one. And he's like, why don't we see if we call, you guys should call it Beauty in the Brain. And I was like, that's so funny and so weird because that's just going to work. So we ended up actually doing that. But to go back still, I came home. I had talked to a few people about this idea. I was running it by people. There were some people that didn't agree with the way that I wanted it to go. There were some people that did agree with the way that I saw it. And I felt very strong about my vision for the show and what I wanted and how I wanted it to be done. And I didn't care how or what I had to do to get there because I had a voice and this is my story. And it's not just a podcast. It's not just a show. It's like, I am telling you every single thing that I have inside of me. You know, it is like no holds barred.
Yeah.
So I decided to reach out on Instagram and to Facebook to some friends about producing and studio space. And an old friend of mine who was a first assistant director on a movie that I did was like, I actually have a studio space. Why don't you come and use it? Shout out to Isaac Heckert. Now he's my producer. And I have a studio and it's like super professional. It's so bizarre. Like, how did this happen? And I kind of just wrote a bunch of my friends who live in LA and asked for the favors that I have been keeping in my back pocket for 15 years.
Smart move.
And I asked some of the kindred people here in LA if they would come, and every single person that I asked said absolutely without a question. And I was like, this is insane to me that I don't even know these people that well, but they are doing this for me that a lot of people weren't doing.
Wow.
So that was it. It just like proved how much everyone at Kindred really wants to change the world, and like anything they can do to do a little bit is going to help. So yeah, so it's called emotional support, because everyone calls me Al. So I'm actually randomly wearing this.
Yeah.
I never have this. This is my one shirt, but I actually had this on my way to the gym.
I love that. I love it.
And so yeah, so each week we are releasing an episode with friends and celebrity guests, where we sit down and we talk about mental health, and we discuss my bipolar disorder. And if we're super close friends, like how did they discover it with me? What do they do? A lot of people reveal things that I didn't even know about them. That is the first time they're revealing mental health issues about themselves, which is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And they didn't know they were going to do that walking into the studio. So that's pretty unbelievable. Basically, it's a safe space where, you know, I have friends that have been on Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and all these big things, but they've never had a platform or ever gotten deep into speaking about mental health and issues.
Right.
And this is kind of that place. And then we also have an awesome Facebook group that just started called it's the Emotional Support Group. And it's all the people that listen to the show and other people, and everyone's on there, and they are posting on their own and communicating from all over the world and chiming in with questions and sending each other videos. And I'm just trying to create a safe space where there's no judgment, there's no stigma. We can be dirty, we can be funny, we can be loud,
Yeah.
and there's no one telling us no. So that's that.
Wow. And was this because did Kindred, that conference, did that spark something within you to start something in mental health?
Totally. It literally is because of Kindred that this show finally came to fruition, because I met people like you who I saw were, you know, doing what you love to do and your truth, and speaking that and sharing it. And, you know, I love what you do by going to the schools. Like, I would love to do that. I would love for you to come to LA one time, or me come to Toronto, or meet up and go with you to one of these things, because I think it's so important to talk to children, especially. I think that's the most important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do this, but seeing how, not that it was easy, but seeing that if you really put your mind to it and you have a community behind you that's supporting you and that will help you along that way. And I never had that mental health support of a community. I've always had friends and family, but I never had people that knew what I went through and were pushing their voice out. I never knew you could do that. And so I felt safe, like, if this fails, it's okay, because at least I had people that had my back.
Oh, that's a beautiful feeling too.
Yeah.
If I fall, here's the safety net, and I won't fall 100 feet.
Yeah. Kindred was my safety net.
Whoa. And how humbling has it been, meaningful, empowering to know that you put this content out there, you spoke from experience, and now you're having people share their stories. What does that feel like for you?
It feels like the best happy cry you could ever have in your life. Really, I cry every single episode, even though I'm like swearing and out of control. I'm always crying about something, because I can't even believe like how as silly as it is, how blessed I am that I have people that are willing to share their stories and giving me the confidence to continue on sharing more of my story. Each episode I feel you can tell not only are my guests opening up, but I share a different story every single time. And I'm opening up more about myself and feeling more comfortable. And I'm sure that you can relate to this, that there's something about being on a microphone and having your headphones in where it makes you feel safe and protected, and that when you are speaking out, you're not worried about what other people are going to hear. It's just you being, fluid with your voice and just speaking out to the world and not really caring what people will think.
Yeah, and I think it's so helpful, you're proof of this then if you take that step and you share what you've been through in your story, and you're literally, if not anything else, giving people permission to do the same. So when you're on these talks and they're vulnerable, I think it's also because you have a very comforting presence, if I may say so.
Oh my God, thank you.
But do you know what I mean? Like it does, you put them in a room with someone cold, no matter if you got the headphones and mic, they might not open up. But since you're listening to them, since you're a caring person, I think it makes it that much easier, right? So good on you for that.
Thank
Now,
you.
now here's a final question for you.
Oh, okay.
Favorite meal? No, we'll do that one actually. But actually, let's do that one right now.
Pasta.
Of course.
Noodles with butter.
Torresani, noodle with butter. Well, if okay, so on a heavier note now, if someone's listening right now who is going through a hard time, okay,
Uh-huh.
whether it be life circumstance, maybe they don't know what's wrong and they're down in the dumps, to speak very well, they feel like shit, to speak
Yeah.
plainly. What would you like to tell them?
I'd like to tell them that I had been there probably a week ago, that happens about once a week to me, that it is so normal to feel down on yourself and to feel, just like you said, plainly, feel like shit. That is so normal. That's something I go through literally once a week. I mean, I can't even express it enough. And sometimes it's lasted, weeks on end. Sometimes it's hours on end. Sometimes it's days on end. Like, it doesn't really matter. It always happens to you. And it inevitably will never not happen to you for the rest of your life. You are going to have a moment where you feel like shit. And like, as long as you can accept that and you can be honest with it and say, it's all right that I feel this way because this feeling will pass. And I know that it feels like it never will pass and that this is the end and you get in a downward spiral. But like, you can't let your mind play a trick on you, because even if you're having the best day of your life, your brain loves to be like a little leprechaun and play tricks on you and tell you and convince you that everything is terrible. But it's just trickery of the brain. And like, you're okay and you are going to get through it. And and if you are feeling so terrible and you don't have friends and you don't have family and you don't feel you have a support, there are, I'm sure as well on your website, on mine as well, I have all the crisis text hotlines. I have all these different companies that are here for people to respond to you, like, to respond.
They're
Don't be
waiting. They're
afraid.
waiting for
Yeah,
you.
they're waiting. They're excited to talk. Like, don't feel like you've given up by reaching out to these people, because even someone who is very open and honest about it, like I am, sometimes I need a complete stranger to listen to me in order for me to feel like I'm going to be okay. Because sometimes it feels like lies when your friends and family tell you it's going to be okay. So, just know it doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be one time in the rest of your life that something will feel like it's the end of the world, but it's not. And just hold out there and reach out for the help, and just know that you're not alone. And this is me. I'm Alessandra Torresani. I have problems. I feel like shit all the time, and it's okay. Like, it's cool.
That's beautiful, Alessandra. And I'm going to leave it at that. Everyone, check out Emotional Support. Google it. Check out iTunes. Check out the Facebook group for an amazing community full of people all over the world where you can have that incredible connection and chat and share with everyone. Alessandra, thank you so much for coming on the
God,
Depression to
I love
Expression
you so
podcast.
much. Thank you for doing this. Like,
When
this
am
is
I
so fun.
when am I coming to LA, or when are you coming to Toronto?
Well, you need to come to LA like ASAP.
Well, in
Because
the winter I'll come.
everyone's out here.
I know.
You need to come out here, and then you could do like the Scott, like Depression to Expression World Tour.
The LA tour, every
Yeah.
school, 10 schools a day.
Yeah. At least 10 schools in general.
Ease. Okay, I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna look
And
into
I
it.
guarantee you, you'd have a whole clan of us hanging out with you
Oh
that would
my,
go the whole time.
that would be so good. I'm actually so excited for the next conference.
I can't wait.
I know. That's gonna be, I think I'll get
May
there.
2020.
I'm getting there a week early. I'll do that.
Come to LA before.
I think I will. I really think
That's
I
when
will.
you should do it.
Yeah, or it's yeah, LA, because it's in San Diego.
Yeah.
So we'll chill in LA, and then we'll take a fun carpool, clown car, and fit us all
You
in.
take the train.
The train.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Alessandra, thank you so much. Everyone stay strong. Keep being you. And don't forget to express yourself.
Yeah.